Guys, great to be back at Cedarwood Festival here online today. It's really great to be with you. Hope you're enjoying the stream and all that's going on. I know I've been enjoying it and the people here have. Andy, how are you finding it?
Absolutely wonderful. It's great to be in the woods, the great outdoors, and the sun's shining.
It is amazing, yeah. We're actually having to keep hydrated quite a lot because it is warm in this secret location that we're filming from. And so, really excited also to have our lead sponsor, a representative from our lead sponsor, MAF, Andrew Martin, with us today. It's great to have you with us, Andrew.
Well, thanks, David. It's a real pleasure. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that what we're going to speak about and share with people not only will it inspire them, encourage and challenge them, but there'll be a tremendous opportunity for folks to get really involved with MEF in so many different ways.
Indeed, that's great. Well, what I wanted to do just now is to just give a bit of an intro. MAF do amazing work across the globe. We're going to hear about some of their work throughout 3 different sessions today. We're really looking forward to having Andy share throughout those, and there'll be some other media coming up as well that people can engage with and also find out more. But what I wanted to just do is and I believe there's a video that's already been played.
Yes,
so people will have a brief idea as to what MF is. But maybe, Andy, if you could just, as it's our first session today with you with us, maybe you could just give, for those who maybe have missed the video a few minutes ago, just give a brief overview as to what MAF is.
The potted history.
From 30,000 feet, pardon the pun.
Well, MEF, or Mission Aviation Fellowship, to give it its proper Sunday name, so to speak, was an organisation that was born out of the conflict of the Second World War. The likes of Jack Hemmings, Murray Kendon and Stuart King, all involved with the RAF during the Second World War, and they prayed faithfully and consistently, along with like-minded people, that God would afford them an opportunity to use aviation for good rather than ill.
Amazing.
And within a few short weeks of the Second World War coming to an end, MEF was born, opened its first office in London, and that was the start of an organisation that would grow and develop in the last 76 years.
Wow.
Now, from the early beginnings in one aeroplane, MEF are now today the world's largest humanitarian airline. And as folks would have seen for the video, and if they missed the video, we today have aeroplanes taking off and landing every 4 minutes.
Wow.
It really is an incredible ministry. But it's a ministry that's not all about MEF, because the mission is to reach in to the developing world to bring help, hope and healing. Mm-hmm. Aviation is the tool of choice.
Yep.
But the fellowship, the F word, is the most important and most valuable aspect of what it is that we do. Because the fellowship, or partnership, MEF work in partnership with well in excess of 2,000 different organisations. Many are household names in the UK, some less well known. But it's there to facilitate help, hope and healing. Bringing help to people who are in situations that we would think helpless. To bring healing. To bring healing, both physically and spiritually. And the hope, now we as Christians talk about hope, the hope of the gospel, and that's the inspiration that inspires the men and women who are involved with MEF, who support MEF, who pray for MEF. We want to see that gospel delivered. But it's not about going and standing and preaching in the middle of an African village or somewhere in South America or Asia. It's having a practical application to your faith. If people are hungry, the last thing they need to hear is the gospel. They need food. So food is provided. If people are sick, the last thing they need to hear about at that time is the gospel. We need medicines and doctors and dentists and nurses, etc. And it's all these things working together. And as you reach into people's life with a practical application of the gospel, people are more receptive because you're meeting them directly at their point of need. However, from a Christian point of view, we want to make sure that people get to hear about and see Jesus in action, and that's a practical application. And often you'll hear conversations with people who you've met them at their point of need, and they'll come back to you and say, you're here, you've provided the medicine or you've provided the food. Why? And that's an open door to preach the gospel, because the God that we love and the God that we serve has told us to reach into your life.
Exactly.
And the response then, well, how can we get to know your God also? And
well, it's that classic, it's that age-old saying that's become very famous, that preach the gospel and if needs be, use words. It's exactly there, and that's I think one of the key things I love about MAF, and I think that one of the reasons we're partnering with MAF for the festival, both for the last 2 years and moving forward as well, is just that practical but also spiritual impact as well that
And
you
it
guys are
does,
having.
it goes
Yeah.
side by side. We can't save anybody, but we are instruments, conduits
Yep.
of God's grace into people's lives.
Yep.
And He's placed a message and a conviction in the hearts of individuals. Now, not every person is called to go into the developing world. Not every person's called to fly an aeroplane. But the one thing...
I know I'm certainly not flying an airplane anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, but everybody's called to mission.
Yeah.
And as far as MEF's concerned, it could be somebody who's praying for us on a regular basis. It could be somebody who's volunteering with us on a regular basis. It could be somebody who wants to make a donation to us on a regular basis. And it's a whole collective of people
Yep.
who are like-minded, working together to reach into the needs of those who are in the most desperate need. And it's an incredibly exciting, dynamic, thrilling... In fact, it doesn't matter what superlative you want to think up in your mind.
Which I know you have many of.
I have many of them,
Many of
as
them.
you know, but all these superlatives don't come anywhere close to the impact that MEF has had
Yeah.
right since 1945.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And today, as I said before, this is one of the slots that we're going to be, hearing from MAF throughout the festival, throughout the Cedarwood Festival at Home event today. As many of people are watching online, we'd just like to encourage you to let us know your comments, let us know what you think of some of the sessions. If you've got any questions for Andy here, any questions about MAF, then do put them on the chat. I'm sure we can address them in other sessions. That's one of the great
Certainly
things.
can.
If there are any that you're having that you want to get involved with MAF, or you want to sign up, or you want to maybe serve as a missionary, then there's many ways I can imagine people can do that.
Many different
But
ways.
today, in this first session, Andy, really wanted to just hone in on one specific area that, we're going to touch on a number of the other areas of the work that MAF do, but maybe we're in the afternoon now. Happy afternoon, everyone, by the way. It's not morning anymore. We're in this afternoon. This afternoon, this first session, let's focus a bit on the medical aspect. So you wanted to touch on that. This is a
Well,
big area that MAF work in.
It's a huge area. And I think, personally, when it comes to the medical aspect of the work in the ministry that MEF are involved in, this last 15 or 16 months has been trying for the world at large. The pandemic has impacted every community on earth.
Yep.
And those living in isolation have been almost more isolated. And one of the things that has really inspired me about the work of MEF is the way that medical evacuations take place. Now, if people are fortunate enough to never have needed the emergency services here in the UK, but if you have to depend on the emergency services, it's a phone call away. You can have an ambulance at your door in minutes. You'll be taken as an emergency patient to the local hospital. You'll be assessed, triaged, the doctors, the nurses, the whole system kicks into place, and you get the health care that you need to keep you alive.
Yeah.
But in the developing world, where there is no NHS,
Yeah, it's a
what do
huge
people
issue.
do? If there is no ambulance service, what do you do? If you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, days and days away from
anywhere,
places,
from anywhere,
and
yeah.
how do you get to a doctor? Now, I was reading just in some of our literature, in fact, just this morning, and it was a woman that was pregnant in Tanzania, and she lived up in an escarpment, 2,000 feet up the side of an almost vertical cliff face.
Wow.
She was having problems in her pregnancy. There was complications, and they had to get her down the hillside.
These are real life situations, aren't they, Andy?
Real life
These are,
situations.
and this has happened recently, this has happened.
And it's a regular occurrence, these things happen.
Yeah.
And this woman had to be helped down the hillside. But once she got to the foot, it was a 12-hour car journey from the
Madness.
bottom of the hillside to where the hospital was, where the clinic was. She could get her care. She was in no way fit to walk that. She was and there was no cars because there's no road. So they're there just in the hope that somebody would pass by.
Someone will be there, yeah.
But the incredible thing is, high frequency radio, HF radio, contacted MEF. MEF flew the plane in, and there's a photograph where the local pastor is laying his hand on this woman as she's been carried into the aircraft, and he prays for her. Lord, have mercy on her. Lord, may this unborn child be brought into the world full of life and vibrancy. May the mother and child both survive. And he prayed, and the pilot prayed, and off they went. The baby's life was saved. The mother's life was saved. And it's just one of these stories that it blows my mind to think that we have everything we need here.
Yeah.
And often we're complaining about it not working properly.
Yeah.
But in the developing world, MEF come into their own with these medical evacuations. Now,
Yeah,
if-
because just on that, Andy, I mean, I don't know if people watching are familiar with these medical evacuations, but there's not actually any other airline that I'm familiar with. There are some, but they're specific to kind of different areas of the world. But the work that MAF do is both niche, but also so well respected across the globe. And I mean, from personal experience as well, I know we've talked about it off air, Andy, but my parents are currently in Liberia, and they frequently use the pilots to go to places where to save lives, to go places that simply can't be reached by by transport alone. And sometimes, as you said, 8 to 10 hours, it's just not, someone's dead by then, so
it's just not feasible.
It is phenomenal, the work that MAF are doing, and we really are fully behind that, and it's just so crucial to hear these stories.
Yeah, and as I was saying to you earlier, MEF now is recognised as the world's largest humanitarian airline.
Yeah.
Now that's a wonderful strapline, and it's sad in today's world that it's necessary for an organisation like MEF to provide these services, but it is necessary, and as long as it's necessary, we will be there. We will be meeting people at the point of need as best we possibly can. Now, when you look at a medical evacuation, if you fall and break your leg working in the fields, the chances are you'll get blood poisoning.
Yep.
And it won't be the broken leg that kills you, it'll be the blood poisoning.
Yeah.
And here you can be in a hospital and you can get your leg x-rayed and reset and back out the hospital in a couple of hours if necessary.
Yeah.
But if you have got somebody who is maybe a 3-day walk, to the hospital.
It's basically death, isn't
It's
it?
basically a death sentence. But you know something? A 3-day walk can be turned into an 11-minute flight. Incredible. And there's a life saved. And I've often said to people given the opportunity, if MEF existed and they only saved one life, then all the effort, all the energy has been worth it.
Yeah.
But the Lord in His infinite mercy and grace has allowed us to reach into the lives of countless people over the last 76 years.
Yeah.
Countless people are alive today. Generations have expanded as children have been saved and mothers have been saved. And people are now living that bit longer in the developing world. Where I remember reading a story about Papua New Guinea, and they were saying that generations ago, children never knew their grandparents because their grandparents would die young.
Before they'd had the chance,
But now they've got some sort of an infrastructure in place for medicine, for healthcare, for clean, fresh drinking water, for education, for all these different things, including medical evacuations, and been able to invest what we have at our disposal, been able to invest that in people's lives really is the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see my MEF flying for life.
Indeed, yeah.
Flying for life. It is life-saving.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would encourage folks today to visit our website and get involved. You might want to start praying, but you might be inspired enough to say, do you know something? I want to get behind this organisation.
Yeah.
Because support for MEF, a small gift every month, right? Support for MEF is not just support for MEF. It's not just support for the 2,000 plus organisations that depend on us, but think of the end beneficiary.
Yeah.
The end beneficiary with a small gift, with many people giving small gifts, enable us to do what we do.
Yep.
And we do it well.
Yeah.
And whether it's aviation, whether it's technology, whether it's communications, logistics, management, all these things follow.
Well, I've had the
together.
pleasure of flying in multiple MAF planes, not in the UK, but and not in a medical emergency. Thank goodness for that. But I can assure that it is certainly an experience, but it is also very life-giving and enjoyable, and the service provided is phenomenal. And I know on one of our previous conversations on our Cedarwood Faces podcast that we run and that we have been running for the last few months in this COVID time. We had an engineer, didn't we, on the
we had
on
Andy
the conversation?
Swanson join us.
Andy from Uganda, if I'm correct in speaking, and it was just phenomenal just to hear practically how he was serving and how the pandemic had kind of impacted the work he was doing. But as we kind of draw to kind of the second part of this conversation, Andy, what I think would be really helpful for some of the viewers who are maybe not familiar with overseas, if they're maybe just been in the UK and not had much experience of emergencies. I mean, it's probably not all of us that have had that experience
No.
in these third world countries. But we can, it's very close to home, as we all know. Just give us some practical examples of what we say flying for life and, evacuations and stuff like that. What are some practical examples of trips that MAF are doing? You've talked about this lady on the cliff face, but in terms of like delivering aid, like medical supplies or whatever, just talk to us about some of those, just so we can
Well,
understand.
something, I hope my wife's not watching, but most women are really overly consumed by their weight. They've tried this diet plan and that diet plan and this eating plan and whatever. Working with one of our partners in South Sudan, we fly a product into the refugee camps. Into
A weight loss product, or?
Well, it's not a weight loss product, it's the complete opposite. But we fly into refugee camps. At the moment, South Sudan is facing probably the world's most dramatic humanitarian crisis. There's famine, there's lack of grazing for their cattle, so the cattle are undernourished and dying, and people are all congregating in these refugee camps. And MEF is one of our partners. We're flying in a product called Plumpy Nut.
Right.
Now, Plumpy Nut, it's about the size of a pack of Maltesers. It would fit comfortably in the middle of my palm. And this is a product it costs pennies. And we've been flying thousands of tons of this, hundreds of thousands of packs of this Plumpy Nut. Now, it's a peanut-based paste with other bits and pieces in it.
Yeah.
And there's over 500 calories in that one small packet. And you give that to a child, that is enough to save that child's life.
Wow.
And working in that environment and flying in these sort of things, it really is life-saving. And people don't often think about that here in the UK, because we've got the supermarkets, we've got corner shops, you can even buy things and...
So accessible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so accessible. You can shop online 24 hours a day. You can go to the local filling station. Everything's contactless. We've got an abundance. But in the developing world, in South Sudan, as I was saying there, with this Plumpy Nut, but that's only one aspect. Now, what do you do once you've saved a life? You need to continue, you need to work with the people. And that's where our partnerships comes in with the many organisations, because we fly the partners in, we fly them out, we fly their equipment, their resources, etc. And that's when the real hard work starts. You've saved a life, but what next?
Yeah.
So what next? Well, you might be putting in standpipes, you might be putting in windmills that operate water pumps to draw water up, and then you'll help through that to irrigate the land so they can grow crops. All these sort of things.
So many different things.
And then all of a sudden you'll find that, well, this area would need a clinic or a field hospital. It might need a schoolroom. All these things move on. So you save a life and people think, well, that's it, it's done.
Yeah,
but
it's a continuing journey.
It's a continuing journey. And our hope and our prayer is as the time goes on, these people will become self-sufficient, but sadly the infrastructure doesn't exist, and it's a long haul. It really is. It's not about solving a problem today,
It's not an
tomorrow,
instant
next
fix
week.
at all, no.
It's so far down the line, and that's why we need people to partner with us to come in and understand the long game, to see the big picture. And it's great that folks come in and say, oh, listen, I would love to support you today or at this moment in time. But it's next week, next month, and the months that lie after that. So we want people to journey with us. And as they journey with us, they become part of MEF. And it's a case of we offer MEF to these people so that they can take ownership of it. So that when they talk about MEF, they don't say them, but we talk about us.
Yeah, as a team.
Us as a unit.
It's a joint effort, isn't it?
It's a joint effort.
And there's, as we know, there's people who subscribe and who are donating to fund people doing their role. You know, the church is the body of Christ, isn't it? And we all play our different roles. And I think one of the things that we really want to stress to viewers all around the world who are watching, I know there's people watching all around the world from our understanding on the live chat this morning and afternoon already. But if people do want to subscribe, there's something we've talked about in the past, which is this the journey, the ticket around the world, and no doubt we'll talk about this.
We're going to talk about that later,
a bit more. But it's if you want to get yourself a journey around the world, then get subscribing to the website and start on that journey. It's going to be awesome.
Just search mef-uk.org if you've got a chance today, and you'll find a whole host of different pieces. And at the end of our time to get together here, we're going to put something on the screen that folks can either scan as a QR code, or there'll be a URL there that will take them to a specific area of our website. But it's all about partnerships.
Yeah.
And
so on that, with the partnerships, Andy, who are the obviously when you're flying around the world, it's not just a a single operation. There's so many people involved in that. Just like back in the back office, in the UK and other offices in the world as well. I particularly have experience in kind of Uganda and Liberia because of links there. But in terms of the partners on the ground, who are some of those that you can maybe share that you work with other organisations?
Well, there's so many. The World Health Organisation,
Right.
Save the Children, Oxfam,
Amazing.
Tear Fund, WEC, and the list goes on
Yep.
and on and on.
And I guess for different things like humanitarian stuff,
Yep.
food,
Well,
disasters.
depending what the need is in a particular area will depend what partner is working with us.
Yep.
But if you take a step back, before all that can happen, if you look at the operation within an MEF programme, you've got a programme manager who oversees the whole situation.
Yep.
He'll make the decisions, sometimes tough decisions. And then you'll have flight followers who watch where the planes are going, and communications. You've got the engineers who work in the aircraft, make sure that they're fully serviced and fit for purpose, that it's safe. And as Andy Swanson said, he says, when I'm working in these planes and I look at my hands, I think, the life of the people who are flying in these machines, the lives are in my hands. And he works to such a high standard, as do all our engineers. We work to the highest standards anywhere in aviation. So you've got the engineers, then you've got the guys who are preparing and maintaining runways, then you've got the folks who are going to load the aeroplanes, right? And that's before
Before you've done
anything.
the actual delivery or anything.
And then the flights. And I mean, when I was saying earlier about a 3-day walk or an 11-minute flight, 3 days,
It's life-saving.
the patients are dead.
Life-saving.
11 minutes, not only are they saved, but if it's a pregnant woman, the mother's saved
And the baby is,
child's saved.
yeah.
If it's somebody who's had an injury working, again, things that we would take for granted here is just engage with the NHS.
Yeah.
We come in there and we do the medical evacuation, or Medivac as it's referred to.
Okay.
And a Medivac now that aeroplane flying over, it's not one of ours. But you know.
But we are in a remote location, but that is definitely not one of the MAF ones.
It's definitely
Can
not
you
one
can you
of
tell
them.
what plane that is from listening to it? Are you one of those people that can?
Yeah, I can. It's definitely a small one.
Definitely a small one. There we go.
I might be a plane geek, but at 10,000 feet here in an engine, I couldn't really.
With a forest cover that we're under right now,
I know.
it's probably not going to be guessed. But yeah,
Going back to the whole medical evacuations of aspect of things, the UK at the moment is pushing vaccines forward. And many of the flights that MEF are taking now are, I mean, right at the start of the pandemic, we were flying in testing kits.
oh really? Has that been wow?
Yeah, we were flying in nurses and doctors and support teams to make sure that communities were kept as safe as possible.
Yeah.
Things that we would take for granted.
Because I mean, these communities,
isolation.
as you know, like the vaccine's been hard enough to get, and well, the testing kits has been hard enough to get to people who are in the developed world, let alone the developing world. So I can imagine that's it's amazing to hear these stories.
So you were flying in testing kits, you were flying in the nurses and the doctors, you were flying in people to help work out how you can practice social distancing, how you can practice health and hygiene to keep you safe and your neighbours safe. And now we're flying vaccines. I mean, we had Andy Parker, one of our pilots in Uganda, flew into the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he was flying in vaccines. And obviously you've got customs checks, etc. But he wasn't allowed to leave the aircraft, otherwise he would have to self-isolate when he came back. But being able to fly these vaccines into remote communities, it's a wonderful, privileged place to be.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, it's frontline. It's
But
frontline
it puts
stuff.
things
isn't it?
into context that what we have here in the affluent West is abundantly more than the people are having in the developing world.
Exactly
and
that.
whether it's PPE or vaccines or the nurses, that's why it's so vitally important that people get behind MEF. Partner has become part of the organisation, that they would see them as
part
us,
of it.
that we are the fellowship.
Yeah.
And yes, the work the pilots does is life-saving.
Yep.
The stuff for the engineers is vitally important. But the prayers and the support, the practical support back here in the UK enables all
essential,
that
it's
to
paramount.
happen.
Yeah.
Because unless we do
Yeah.
our bit at this side of the fence, things on the other side
Yeah.
just cannot happen, David.
Well, on that note, guys, what I'd say to everyone who's watching online, but also I'm sure Andy can echo this. We'll be talking about this more later on today as we hear more from Andy and about different areas that MAF are working. But as we kind of wrap this little conversation, what I would encourage you to do is to go on the website or go on the social media, find out more about MAF. I believe there's a QR code or something that should be
QR
coming up
code.
now, and people can check in, scan the code. They can find out more about what MAF are doing, and I'm sure, as we've said before, if they want to subscribe and then find out, ask any questions as well for Andy. We're gonna, as I said, we're gonna have 2 more slots today, talking about the work of MAF, and Andy will be with us for all of those.
And I've got
So,
some really exciting video footage to
amazing,
share later on.
amazing.
Really
So I'm
exciting.
sure. I mean, obviously we've been in planes and we've seen that, but for people who haven't really seen MAF in action, that I'm sure would be amazing. You know, seeing some of those deliveries and seeing the planes flying. I know I'm a big fan of aviation and flying as well. So for those people out there, I'm sure who name the planes as well, then we look forward to seeing them as well. But we're gonna leave it there for this session. And big thanks again to Andy, who's
absolute pleasure.
come down from all of Scotland, has made his way down to definitely south. I won't say where we are, but we're definitely south of Scotland. And yeah, it is great to have you here, Andy, representing MAF.
thank you.
And we're looking forward to hearing more later on from that as well. So we'll leave it for there, guys, and we'll see you very shortly.